brilliant. It's a hero maximum. On the ground, down the ground, another hero maximum.
Welcome back to the Maximum Cricket Podcast. This is the Patreon Power Play, episode number 12, the show powered by our lovely Patreons. This week, it's a special episode. An episode inspired by South Africa coming back from 2-0 down in a home one-day series against Australia, winning 3-2. Something that happened in 2006. Inspired by Clarkson and David Miller absolutely destroying an Aussie attack to post 400 plus. Something that happened in 2006. Inspired by Adam Zampa going for 113 off his 10 overs. Something else that happened in 2006. That's right. This week we are going back to 2006 and reviewing one of the most iconic bilateral one-day internationals of all time. The time Australia became their first team ever to pass 400 but lose. I am joined, as always, by Lugsy and Jacko. Boys, before we dive into the nitty-gritty of the game, can you remember what it was like when this iconic one-dayer played out back in 2006? 434 plays, 438. Paint a picture for the fans. Where were you in life and what do we remember from it?
I would have been 12, so probably very sort of early in my firm memories. But I remember at the time, sort of 300 was the big score in one-day cricket. Like if you scored 300, you're batting well. So, to see 400 scored was massive, and probably like looking back, maybe the most famous one-dayer outside of a World Cup. If you ask people, what one day do you remember the most, or what do you think is most iconic? This one probably springs to mind. But yeah, some stories that were probably beyond me at 12 that came out in future years, which I'm sure we'll touch on. But probably the most iconic one day game of all time, I'd say, and I'd comfortably say that.
Yeah, 16 years old, just starting to dabble in the occasional drink, still very much a virgin, still very much enjoying wrestling and watching Edge cash in Money in the Bank for the first time. Yes, so double the age and very similar. But yeah, I think Jacko knocked it on the head. 300 for so long on one-day cricket was that number where you get that batting first. It's shut the gate. They're not going to chase this, boys. Cutting skin at Oranges. So yeah, the way I think it was from memory, I woke up to the news of this 400. One of the core things that sticks out of my head is, and I don't even know if this is true now, but I just vividly remember everyone saying a punter put 20 grand on Aussie to win at Oranges.
I've heard
and
that
it was
one.
like at $1.01 or something. Yeah, that's like as soon as we were talking about this game, it's the first thing that came to my head was that guy's punt. One of the core memories. And then, I think for sure, I think before that World Cup final of ours, I think a lot of people would say this is the greatest ODI ever played. So I think they're probably 1 and 2 still. That World Cup final, England, New Zealand, and this ODI, sorry.
Yeah, it shows how iconic this one-dayer was because it's not in a World Cup. The stakes aren't anywhere near of those World Cups. Like it's not as much stakes as a World Cup final. It's not as much stakes as the tied one-dayer in '99, South Africa, Australia. But yeah, I think I was in 14, 15. Core memories at this stage, and it was right around that Australian time where they just were unbeatable, and a lot of credit goes to Australia because obviously they're the ones that sort of broke that barrier. Like when no one passed 400, they absolutely crushed it out of nowhere, and that stuff had Australia to a T. Like they were the ones going at 3.5 to 4 and over in Test cricket. They obviously won a World Cup the following year. It was sort of like disbelief that someone had knocked them over. And you're looking back, like looking at that South African team, even more disbelief probably. But boys, before we we've got some categories and a bit of summary, but I want to start with a week game, a game we've been playing a bit lately. It's normally top 10, but this is going to be your top 7. Again, you're going to get your 3 lives. I want to see, because I want to talk about the batting. The batting's going to come up quite a bit. A lot of big scores. 7 scores, in fact, were above 50 in this game. And I want to see if you boys can name all 7 with 3 lives.
Okay.
All right. Being that I watched this highlight package 1.5 times, we should be okay here.
Yeah.
Let's just go.
Gibbs got a
go
ton,
Aussie
so
first.
that's got to
Yeah,
be
Gibbs.
locked in.
Gibbs definitely did get a ton. So he's at your 175 off 111
He
blocks.
actually, he was seeing it all right there, Gibbs. Mark Boucher just got 50 even.
He did 50
Jack
not
Ponting
out
turned
of
up as
43.
well.
Ponting, 164 off 105.
Obviously, Skadic was going a bit slow, but he's still got a respectable odd 80 odd or 90. Simon Kadic up top.
Set the platform, 79 off 90.
Some say cost him the game. That's hot take.
I'd say Mick Lewis might have something to say about that, but yeah.
Graham scored a bit.
Yeah, I've got him coming up later. Graham Smith, obviously.
Yeah. Graham Smith, 90 off 55. Absolutely. An underrated, probably almost forgotten innings in a way, watching it back, like really sort of set the tempo.
Oh, it's an unbelievable. If it's not for Gibbs, obviously, that innings goes crazy. Obviously, Hussey got plenty.
Yeah, so he put the finishing
Hussey,
touches on that.
Didn't he?
Yeah, 81 off 51. So yeah, one more for the perfect 7.
Is it an Aussie? Is it an Aussie?
It is an Aussie, yeah.
Yeah. Who are we missing here? Who came at 4? Hussey.
Well, I remember reviewing the scorecard and thinking awfully weird that Lee batted at 7. So
yeah, that's definitely going to come
weird
up.
That I thought
it's rogue.
Gutsy that they promoted Hussey. It obviously worked, but promoted Hussey ahead of Simons, who you would have thought they would have just gone bang on Simons.
Yeah.
Did he got get 50?
No, he didn't.
Nah,
he got 20 odd off 13, so didn't have enough balls. But
who would have opened then with?
Oh, Gilchurch, of course. Yeah.
Gilchrist. Yeah, he came up for. He was 55 or 44, so that's your 7. So yeah, real fast stuff. Righto, let's do a big summary of the game, and then we'll dig into some categories as we go. I suppose where do we begin with this sort of classic match? Probably the start would be a good place. The year 2006, Australia touring South Africa, series locked at 2 apiece going into a deciding ODI at the ground known as the Bullring, which is very, very ominous name indeed. Australia won the toss and batted on.
Serious crowd in too.
Yeah, very, very hostile crowd, like very loud sort of stuff.
Serious crowd.
Very flat wicket, obviously. Gilchrist off to a flyer, 55 off 44. Him and Kaddish, they put on 97 for that first wicket. That brought in the Kookaburra Kahuna poster boy, Ricky Ponting, who was in ominous form. South Africa was missing man of the series, Sean Pollock, and it showed with the ball. Ponting Kaddish getting the score to 216 for 1 off 30 until Kaddish was dismissed for 76. Now the carnage really begins with the introduction of Michael Hussey. Him and Ponting put on 158 in just 16 overs. Hussey dismissed 81 off 51, but it was Ricky Ponting who was at his best. Like sometimes you forget how good Ponting was until you watch some highlights. 164 off 105 balls as Australia became the first team in the history of ODI cricket to pass 400 and end up 434 for 4. To win this game, South Africa had to go at 8.68 and over for 50 overs. That is the same as 174 in a T20 game 2.5 times. What followed was obviously ridiculous. Bracken got a wicket in the second over, and then it was all Graham Smith and a very hungover Herschel Gibbs. 187 off the next 21 overs. Smith, the main aggressor early on, 90 off just 55 balls. As we mentioned, underrated knock because you felt like it sort of gave a bit of belief to the dressing room and the crowd. Crowd started to lift, and after he was dismissed, there might have been a switch or a light bulb that goes off in Gibbs because he goes absolutely bananas. When Smith was dismissed, he was 84 off 73. He and a very, very young AB de Villiers put on 96 in just 9 overs. and AB made 14 of those. Gibbs hits 91 of his next 38 balls to incredibly put South Africa in the box seat. At one stage, South Africa 299 for 3 off 31 overs at a run rate of about 9.5. They brought the required run rate down to about 7 or less than 7. Australia, as they do, they came back. Gibbs out for 175 off 111 balls. Nathan Bracken managed to pick up 4 more wickets to take 5 for 67 off his 10, easily the pick of either side. This had Australia back on top again. With 3 overs left, South Africa needed 10 and over, 3 wickets in hand. The infamous Mick Lewis delivered his last over, which went for 17 to give him match figures of 10 overs, none for 113, the most ever by a bowler in a one-day international. Tied now, of course. South Africa on top again, 13 off 12. Bracken completes his last over, takes a wicket, only concedes 6. South Africa 7 off the last over with 2 wickets in hand. The number 10, Hall, I believe, he had a 4 off Brett Lee's second ball, 2 off 4 needed. Game done. Another twist, of course, there is, as he hits the next ball down mid on throat, 9 down now, 2 off 3. He squeaks a single. Mark Boucher, who finishes 50 not out, hits the winning runs with a ball to spare to complete, quite simply, if not the greatest game of all time, it is the greatest chase in all of cricket. I feel confident saying that. Boys, after a rewatch, just your thoughts on this game. It's a great rewatch, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And as we said, I mean, we're looking back at probably the best game maybe ever outside of that World Cup final that we were on the wrong end of. So a great rewatch. And I mean, two of the great storylines came out of it. One was sort of touched on with Gibbs being dangerously dusty, sort of really pushing the boat out the night before and then scoring that. And the other one is just, I think it was that Callis walked off the field and just said, 20 short. Which is one of the all-time quotes, I think, and really sort of tracks through, because you always try to, bring that in if you're trying to lift the dressing room up a bit. So, a couple of great storylines out of it. But yeah, I mean, as you said, to score 400 at a time when it sort of felt like a guy scoring a double 100 or a team getting 400 with the two next big batting sort of milestones at the time, and to have it happen twice and the chase is phenomenal. Just touching on Bracken's fifer, in context, is that the best fifer ever?
I mean, I was going to bring it up at
it's
some
up
point.
there. It's actually, I was going to bring it up on unanswerable questions, but if Australia won that game,
the needle.
If Australia won that game, is Bracken man of the match?
Oh, minimum.
Yeah, I mean,
not Ponting.
That's one of the great bowling performances from one of the great left armers. I was a huge Nathan Bracken.
Yeah, massive Bracken fan.
Guy. The biggest thing that stood out on rewatch was sort of just the whole. It did feel big. So the way I was just watching the introductions to the game and the way they were talking it up, I was like, this feels really big compared to some of the ODIs we get these days. And I tell you what also felt big, which I didn't realise quite how deep it went, but it was like the Smith v Ponting battle. Just at each other, Smith v Ponting. And one of the great moves by Graham Smith, bringing himself on to bowl when Ponting's 99 not. Exceptional captaincy, that in my opinion. But yeah, I just really enjoyed that battle. And it sort of, got me thinking South Africa v Australia, just one of the real good grudge matches. Like a couple of sort of more of the hard-nosed teams in world cricket. It's just good to see them going at it.
They've always been the sort of top side that, Australia sort of puff their chests out and they kind of alpha all the teams, where South Africa just sort of fight fire with fire. And they've had some unbelievable series and moments over the years, and it's Sandpaper Gate's obviously the peak of that, when they've just got out of control. But yeah, I think you touched on how big this game felt in the moment, and it really did. That crowd that was one thing that stood out for me the most, was that crowd was unbelievable. It was humming, and it felt like that era when you had. We don't normally do this as much nowadays, but you've got like full series, like teams tour, then they'll tour for 5 1-days. Like probably, I mean, back then there'd be 1 T20 if that, and then you got like a lot of tests. Like it's actually a side as teams are playing against each other for like 2 or 3 months, and there's actual, I don't know, winning a series like used to mean something back in the day. Now it's kind of like there's so much cricket where most of the sides aren't full strength and they're resting players, where it just doesn't feel like it's anything. But I remember, one of our fondest memories growing up is winning the Chapel Hadley series. That's a bilateral series. Those series used to matter. Yeah.
We used to be a country. One thing I don't know what category it would sort of fit into, but I just wanted to shout it out was because I love a good like dish at bowling, and I really enjoyed Paul Simcox just on comms just being like, this is real happy hour bowling. This is I really enjoyed that because it got me back to when Warney said when Warney was criticising the side, and real buffet bowling, real help yourself sort of stuff. Just love a good shout out in comms.
Yeah. Right, so let's roll through some categories. We'll start with the Hairy Javelin Award for the defining picture of the match. I've got 3 here. My first one is there's just a picture of the scorecard, or like the electronic scoreboard at the first innings break, and it just says like obviously the score 434 for 4. Congratulations, Australia! You now have the world record for the highest total in one-day international cricket, which I think is just it's just an iconic photo because it obviously didn't last very long. And then my next one is sort of the same thing. But it's got Graham Smith in front of the scoreboard, and he's just in behind the crowd. He's sort of clapping the crowd, and in the back it's got the same scorecard, but it's got South Africa now holds the world record. And my last one, I've got you've got like probably a still drunk Herschel Gibbs, and you got Mackay and Tini, and they're sort of like running around the boundary, crowd going nuts, and they're just saluting the crowd. There's some, but that's probably one of my favorites. But any other nominations, boys?
Yeah, I think the Gibbs and Tini ones are exceptional. Like, has Herschel landed the plane? Probably not. It's probably still in the air. That's the next day's problem. He's still up there in the clouds. But I think the only other one I'd throw in there is the one of Pollock and Boucher like celebrating the close up. Like I'd maybe the 2 most stoked blokes ever. Like it's just an all-time sort of snap. So that's probably the only one I'd throw in the mix that comes close to Gibbs and Nantini doing a lap of the ground.
Yeah, I was going to say honourable mention goes to Pollock and Boucher because that's when I think South Africa, they're a couple of the blokes that just spring to mind. So to see them just absolutely stoked. Great snap. But on scoreboard for me. There's one at the end that's just got like the whole scoreboard, and it's like South Africa win or something, and it's just like you're just looking at the scoreboard and you're like, how the hell did that all happen? That scorecard is just one of the most iconic scorecards in cricket, I'd say. So, yeah, scoreboard for me.
Yeah, no, some good options. I'll probably go the scoreboard as well. But that's just some iconic photos. Okay, the Bradman Award for the best stat of the game, and as you can imagine, there's a few stats from this game, world record stuff. Australia, the first side to pass 400 in a one-day international. Australia obviously become the second, and their 438 for 9 was the world record at the time. This was it was actually broken that same year by Sri Lanka. Still the highest score batting second. At the time, Gibbs 175 was the second highest individual score chasing. Not from this game, but this is early on Michael Hussey from his ODI career. Heading into this year, that 2006, Hussey averaged 140 in one-day cricket. Just real hot start stuff.
That's too hot.
Yeah, it's a lot. And I think this is probably the stat. This is definitely it's a contender. The most expensive one-day figures ever for Mick Lewis. Like when I think of this game, like I think of like obviously 4-3-4, 4-3-8, and right next to it is 1-1-3. Mick Lewis. Like that. That's one of the stats I remember from this game. What do you guys got? Any more? Or
I must have tipped him the week before, actually, probably as an 11-year-old. Yeah, I mean, I think you covered off a lot of the good stuff. I think the highest run chase is just the stat that always stick from this game. I mean, yeah, to have the most runs scored ever and to walk out and knock it off is just, yeah, you'll never beat that for me, I don't reckon.
Yeah, I mean, I've got Mick Lewis coming up in a category that'll be talked about shortly. Sticks out like a sore thumb, his name in that Aussie lineup. But yeah, I don't want to be boring and go the same as everyone, but like that, just the stat of the number of runs scored in that run chase is just, you can't top that. I mean, shout out I think it was most boundaries ever, most sixes ever, all were in that.
Those are good ones.
Game as well. But yeah, like just the stat of the highest run chase, the highest score, everything that goes into the runs is what the core memory of that game.
Yeah, and I think it's so incredible because it was in 2006. Like, this is 17 years ago, where if that happened the other day, like, we'd be mind blown. But to happen 2006, when no one's ever passed 400 and then it gets passed twice. Yeah, I don't know. Like, I'd be surprised. I'd be surprised. Like, I'd be interested to see how long it would take to break that record for most combined runs in a one day. Like, it'd be incredible.
It's just such a high score from Aussie that it sort of gave Africa no choice. Like, it's not like even like a 340, 350. Maybe we'll start out normally and see what happens, and then we can turn it up. They just had to go from the start. I mean, Boyd to Dippenar obviously did most sort of try to set a platform there, 1-off-7, but apart from that, everyone sort of knew it was go time from Bill 1.
Yeah, imagine if he walked into the dressing room and was like, fuck, I don't know how they scored 400. It's pretty tough out there.
Doing a bit out there. Imagine if he starts blowing up. He starts blowing up at Graham Smith, asking what kind of roller he used at the minute of his break. Like, you got that light roller, did you? Oh, that'd be right. Yeah.
Just spraying the bowlers. Like, they've got it doing everything. How come you idiots couldn't do this?
Yeah. Okay. Shot. This is a new one. I haven't got a name for it.
The South African bowlers. The South African bowlers must have been like just very over the moon when that Aussie served up their performance as well.
If
they had got rolled for like 220 or something, that would just be an all-time like locker room divide.
I mean, I've got to be rant about that attack later on. It's quite jarring when you look at it.
Bracken would have had some of that going back in. Bracken, prime candidate for just any help, boys.
Okay. Shot of the game. Haven't got a name for it, but if you can, if we can get a comment or anyone's got any ideas of who we can name the shot of the game after, I'm all ears. I've got 3 nominations, but there's so many. I bet. Just Boucher hitting the winning runs, obviously iconic. I couldn't think of the one shot I thought of. The one shot that stuck out from Ricky Ponting's innings was just when he swept Callis for 6. Like, it was just a sign that, like, Callis is bowling about mid 130s and he's just sort of down on one knee, sweeps him over mid wicket for 6, like he's nothing. And I was like, fuck, Ricky Ponting was seeing it so well in 2006. And then I couldn't think of one shot for Gibbs, but I've just got him going inside out over and over and over. Like, it was that was unbelievable. The amount of times he did it, it's such a difficult shot, and he made it look so easy. Any one of those shots could be the shot of the game for me. Any other nominations, fellas?
Yeah, I think sweeping quicks is got to be right up there with sort of your difficulty in executing that. So, no arguments there. It does remind me of that English bloke who came out to a tour of Aussie saying he's going to slog sweep Brett Lee, and I believe got cleaned up game 2. I don't know if he played again, but it could be an archive for another day. But I mean, the winning runs is always going to be.
What was his name? I remember that. It was that's a cool.
It was English opener.
Yeah, he hit it over fine leg, didn't he? He hit one.
Just one
he hit a
massive
6 over fine
leg straight down the pitch, sweep six.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then he just got cleaned up next time he tried it.
This is before DRS, of course.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, the winning runs are always going to be there. Ponting, Gibbs, it's there's no clear answer, I don't think. But I'll just go the winning runs because what a moment and what a final shot.
Yeah, I when I watched the highlights, it was genuinely Ponting's hitting stuck out to me. I said to Munter and you boys, like, he didn't muscle any of his to the boundary. His hitting was just like pure as you like. And there's a couple of shots there over cow that they just didn't look like out of control, out over cow heaves. They just looked so nice. Like, and the sound it just made off his bat. I was just, yeah, I'll take any of the fewer Ponting's big sixes there. Just the sound off that bat was just incredible.
Rumor has it that was the innings that made them ban those carbon fiber bats. Those they were like, hang on, like no one should be hitting the ball this well. Like,
yeah, there's 4 South Africans on the board, so we'll get those banned.
I'll go Gibbs, just to round it out. But I think it's personal preference, to be fair. The Glenn McGrath 2005 award for turning point of the game. I don't know if there's too many. I've got this one, like we talked about Nathan Bracken being unbelievable with the ball. Did drop a pretty easy catch for Herschel Gibbs when he was just past 100. Like, you feel like that he catches that, they probably win that game. I know there's a lot of cricket to go, but, you know, everything had to go right to chase 434. And if Gibbs goes out then, they probably don't chase 434. But I think there's an argument for Jacques Kallis because he didn't make any runs, but the legend of Jacques Kallis is in and amongst this game. So obviously there's talks of him saying that the Australia are like 15 or 20 short. But what I found out when I was doing my research was he actually started that conversation by saying the bowlers have done their job. Time for the batters to do theirs. They are 15 or so short, which it's like that would have just made the locker room just like lose it. Cheers, cheers, Jack.
Yeah, cheers, Jack. Did Jack bowl? Was he part of that bowling attack, just trying to really get the heat off himself?
Oh, he went. I think he went at like 12, didn't he?
Oh yeah, 6 overs
and a great
70.
senior role. Yeah, just pulled himself back after 6 or 7 there. Didn't go 3 more, old Jacks.
He's bowled 6 overs, none for 70.
Yeah, tough.
Yeah, Jacks, any chance of another over or 2 there? Nah.
Yeah.
We won't be going for 100, sorry, boys.
Yeah. There was actually a bit of leadership shown in both sides for not going for 100. I mean, Lee only bowled 7 and a bit.
Oh, yeah.
Jack only bowling a 6. There's a lot of... I feel sorry for Mick. I reckon he's got stitched up there. When they were sort of on track.
Rightly so, though.
It's like it's like Rashid Khan.
You can't have Brett Lee going for a ton.
It's like Rashid Khan, how he's bowled 9 overs for like 110 in the in that World Cup game against England. There was no way he was bowling that 10th over. He's like, there's no chance like he's taking that record.
No.
Oh, you can't risk going for like 130.
No, fuck no.
That's wild.
No. I mean, potentially the Hussey promotion sort of sparked as we 80 or 50, probably got them up to the 400 potentially, you could argue. So, you could say early on, but
you could say Graham Smith's just intent from the start, like that.
You could also
that sort of like kick-started everything.
You could also blame Bracken twice because not only did he drop Kallis and potentially drop the match, he also got Dippenar out, as I mentioned, and he should have kept him in there. I mean, that's Section 5 sort of stuff. You leave the worst batter in, and you don't get him out. This is 100%. Common backyard stuff.
Okay, the Andy Mackay Award for I forgot he played. I've got 4 nominations. The whole bowling attack for South Africa.
Yeah. There's a lot of South Africans in there. I didn't know play cricket.
It is. I mean, it is an all-time terrible attack. Obviously, Mick Lewis and just Brett Lee batting at 6 is something that you easily forget.
I reckon obviously there's a few names I've never heard of that were playing for South Africa, just a wee bit sort of before my era. But I reckon someone who, when I look back at the scorecard, had no idea they would have participated was Big Stewie Clark. Good test player, sort of, barreled in, bowled a lot of overs in test cricket, I remember, but I couldn't have told you he played in that game and was a part of it. So that was a name that I was familiar with that stuck out that I couldn't have told you sort of played in this game. So I'd nominate Stewie Clark.
Nice.
Yeah, that's actually probably a good one because the ones that you don't even really know. Yeah, you just don't know. But still, I have to say Mick Lewis because that is one of these most star-studded Aussie teams. Like, you know them all, and then hang on, how's Mick slipped in there?
Yeah, I think Mick Lewis is probably the obvious one. The Woodworm Award for the best piece of kit from that year, 2006. There is so many from this year. It's a great year for kit.
Good year for just straight up playing kit, to be fair.
Oh, yeah. Wow, that South African kit's pretty dusty, which I'll get to. But I'd say Kookaburra bats were unbelievable back then. Kahuna, Beasts, they are iconic. Even like GM bats were great. Like Gibbs's bat was iconic. Smith's bat's iconic. I've got one here for those Albion space lids. Well, they don't make them anymore, but fuck, everyone used to have them. They were
it's because they folded in and cleaned up Daniel Flynn's 2 front teeth.
Yeah, but I used to have one. They were they look so nice. Yeah, they really did. Like they used to really compete with Missouris for a hot minute. Like Ross Taylor used to have one.
That'll happen when you watch one literally fold on live television. Like, it looked like a paper helmet. It looked like those ones you used to get when you went and supported and they had the plastic around the front.
Yeah, I was still marketing because I thought they looked good.
Yeah, that marketing team would have been like, we've done so well to get up with Missouri and Daniel Flynn's lost his front teeth. We're fucked.
I'll tell you what, I just think for me, it's just that's a premium GM year for me. It's around that time the old Maxi original was floating around. Yellow stickers, yellow grip. Oh, that's prime real estate for GM in my world.
Yeah, I'll go.
It was a great time for GMs.
I'll go Kahuna bats because like Ponting, like when you think of Kookaburra Kahuna, the first person I think of is Ponting. Like he is just he is the poster boy for Kahunas. Like it's just,
and even now when a player runs a Kahuna, you're like, oh geez, are they as good as Ponting was?
Yeah, it's a high standard.
It feels like it was a forbidden, like it feels like that sort of reserved stick for only Cookie's best. Yeah,
for sure. Have we got anything for what's aged the worst? Because I've got that South African kit. It was dreadful. Baggy. Like, considering the kits they have now, which is they've had some good kits for a while, that South African kit is dreadful. It's
those Albion lids didn't age well.
No, too fair. It's a good point. Very good point. Did not age well at all. Would not work nowadays, so it's not a bad call.
No.
Yeah, I was going to really push back and be like, this is always perfectly. This is the perfect crowd, the perfect run chase. You can't even say the bowling's aged badly because now it's just common ground that you go for a few. You know, it's all just, it was before its time as a game. The game meant a lot. The captains going at it, the rivalry. I thought it was just perfect cricket.
Yeah, fair. Apex Mountain, obvious one, Herschel Gibbs. I've got another couple. Tony Gregg as a commentator. Fuck, he was sensational in this.
How good was it to hear his voice?
Unbelievable. Some of his best work ever. Like, he just nails
He'd be
the
Mount
excitement.
Rushmore, wouldn't he?
Yeah, he really would.
Oh, yeah.
The other one I've got, which is probably going to hurt, our South African fans, but is this the apex mountain for South African cricket? Just in general?
Oh, well,
Is it
I
getting
mean, I
better?
don't want to speak about the future, but it probably is up until now.
I don't know.
Was
Like,
pretty
I mean, it's
fair.
not like that.
To be fair, Fafnat Tower was pretty good.
The Tau. I mean, they were a very
Yeah.
good test team for a
Yeah,
bit, but like, I don't know. Like, just in terms of a
yeah.
moment,
I was going to say the Stain years and the tests. Oh, it's the biggest moment in there. It's
Oh
a
yeah,
huge moment.
yeah.
It's one of the
yeah,
most well-known
could be
games
South
in
Africa's
history of cricket.
yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Last category we've got unanswerable questions. Does Herschel Gibbs get back on the sauce? Like, obviously, there's a lot of talk about him being hungover. Does he kick on? Does he go back to back? And does he just go absolutely large that night?
That's not
Yeah.
that's not unanswerable. Yes, he did.
Yeah, I mean,
Absolutely
Herschel
did.
would love to have you on just to talk through the circuit post that actually. So, friend of the show who'd reach out, we'll get him on to talk us through it. But yeah, it's a guarantee. If you're going out pre-game, you're not turning down a night out after that.
It's not a question of if he went out to me. It's how long the circuit was. Obviously, yeah, as we talked about, they had a test coming up. So did they go 3 nights, 1 night off into the tests? I dare say they may have.
I wish I looked up
Another,
how that test series went.
yeah.
Oh, Herschel got 15 runs and 4 digs.
Another unanswerable could be how many times did Herschel go out the night before a game after that to try and like recapture lightning in a bottle?
Just having Neil McKenzie, just like superstitious stuff.
Just look like you've got to pick Neil and I've got to go out before every one day. Sorry, it's just, I scored 170 once.
Do you reckon how do you reckon the Aussie locker room was post? Do you reckon they were disgusted, or do you reckon they sort of just threw their hands up and were just like, what are we gonna what the fuck? Let's just whatever.
Bracken's like, any
probably
fucking danger, boys? Any fucking danger of a dot ball?
There's probably
I'd say Ponting was furious.
Oh yeah, but I reckon he'd be stewing from like overs 30 to 45 was when he'd probably be as like most upset, and then he'd be like, "Oh, we've fucked this." Like you probably go through it out there, like when they're tracking or when they're 290 for at 30. So they're probably like the locker room's probably a bit relaxed, maybe. But yeah, Ponting, Bracken, big vibes with everyone else, I'd say.
I was genuinely curious when they took a wicket if someone in the circle was just like, "What in the fuck is going on?" Like, just what's happening?
Yeah.
Do you reckon the coach made them sit through the video replay like Langer did?
That's a good unanswerable question. That's a great unanswerable question. One we'll never know. Like, I wish that would be a hell of a rewatch.
Boys, you've bowled a lot of shit balls here. You'll notice on replay, a lot of these aren't good.
Yeah.
That is us for another week. We hope you enjoyed this special Patreon power play. If you are here on YouTube, please do leave a comment, or even subscribe. If you are feeling extra generous and you want to support us at TMC, hell, maybe you just don't want to pay for YouTube Premium and you want to listen on the go. I get that. Have a look at patreon.com/maximumcricket for the audio-only edition. Lugsy, Jacko, thanks as always, and we will catch you next week for another match in time up the wires.